So I've had about a week now to like cool off, compartmentalize, gather my thoughts. So I'm going to do a breakdown on Dodgers' epic collapse in the bottom of the 7th inning. And if you don't like my thoughts, I don't give a shit. Here we have Steve Wilson. He was solid for San Diego in the bullpen. Not their best reliever by any means, but solid. And here he's facing Mookie Betts to lead off the 7th. So this 2-1 fastball up and in, called a strike, looks like a ball. It looks very similar to a pitch that he struck out on in the top of the 1st to lead off the game. Remember this call. It's important for later on. And I think that's all that anger is part of it is the strike zone call. Part of it is just frustration that they're down to the lowly San Diego Padres here, 2-1 in the division series. When everything was supposed to be handed to them, right? Freaking LA Times wanted them to just give them the World Series trophy just because. And honestly, I haven't seen Roberts this mad since 2020 of the World Series in Game 4, and we all know why. It ends up not mattering because Mookie Betts draws the walk. But before we get to Trea Turner, something's happening. You see here, the umpire crosses his arms to let you know that he's concerned. Mookie Betts, Will Myers is like, what's that? What's that? They point. Mookie Betts shielding his eyes. Look at that synced up head bob. And it's a drone. There was a drone in Game 2. There's a goose actually in Game 2 as well. And it ended up not being a good omen for the Dodgers. Here you see Tommy Kahnle warming up, pumping up his chest to face that Goliath of that bottom of the San Diego lineup. Tim Hill warming up for Max Muncy, and Trea Turner, yeah, it's just that kind of night. So Trea Turner shows bunt on the first pitch. I'm not sure why. He's supposed to be one of the best hitters, second in all of baseball in hits this year. Next two pitches, he doesn't show signs of bunting, so I don't know what the first thing was. Mookie Betts does advance here. And then, for some reason, comes back to the bunt, 2-1. And I like this better than the first pitch because, look at this. It just completely catches San Diego off guard. Trea Turner's on board. And the Padres almost really messed that one up. They almost pulled a Dodger moment right there. Next pitch hits Freddie Freeman. Mookie Betts thought it was a wild pitch. It's confirmed a dead ball. And so now we have the bases loaded with nobody out. The Dodgers, when they loaded the bases with nobody out this year, it was like a freaking running gag with this team all year long. I mean, all the times they loaded the bases and failed to score throughout the year, it was a freaking meme. I know it because I made it a freaking meme. Dodgers loaded the bases with nobody out 45 times in the regular season. That's by far the most in all of baseball. What does that tell you? It tells you that they're great at creating run-scoring opportunities. Catching in on those opportunities was the problem. By the run expectancy matrix, you're supposed to score more than 2 runs in this scenario, as you see right there in that blue bottom box. An embarrassing 29% of the time, they didn't bring in a single run with the bases loaded and nobody out. And of course, with the bases loaded in general, they had a 252 batting average. That's freaking horrible. That's 7th worst in all of baseball, tied with the freaking Washington Nationals. And this wasn't in a small sample size. This was in 194 plate appearances. That was second in all of baseball, right behind the Giants. They had struck out in 24% of those plate appearances, walked less than 7% of the time, and this all-powerful team only had 2 grand slams all year long. Not to mince words, they just fucking sucked this year with the bases loaded. And so when shit like that happens, and shit like that consistently keeps happening in the playoffs, I do think that's an approach thing. I think maybe their hitters were thinking grand slam whenever they got the bases loaded, instead of sticking to their approach of not trying to do too much and passing on the baton. Obviously, trying to be the hero didn't work, and this extends past the bases loaded. This got magnified in the postseason. But if you actually paid attention throughout the season, this 111 win team, they had peaks and valleys, as Friedman said, with runners in scoring position. Which means in the aggregate, the averages show that they were really good. But the thing about averages is that they can be heavily skewed. What the averages won't tell you, but what common sense will, if you're an actual Dodger fan and you watch the games, is that they had stretches where they were just destroying the league with runners in scoring position, and then other stretches where they looked like they had honestly a lineup full of me batting 1 through 9, and you just knew that sooner or later that inconsistency was going to catch up to them at the wrong time. Well, it caught up to them here in the NLDS and led to their downfall. So I know I diverged a little, but let's get back to this. 7th inning, bases loaded, nobody out. Will Smith is up, and this is the guy you want up. The difference between Will Smith and say Gavin Lux is that Smith was actually put in these situations when he was younger. He was allowed the opportunity to fail, and now look at him. Only he and Friedman drove in a run in Game 4 because they didn't try to do too much, and here he rockets the ball at 103 miles per hour off the bat, and it turns into a sac fly. But what sucks here is that he hit the ball really well, but unfortunately, Profar was shifted perfectly and only 1 run scores. But that's what you want. You want your cleanup hitter to hit the ball as hard as he can because that's your best chance of doing damage. And you compare that ball to a ball hit at Dodger Stadium in Game 1. This was, I believe, 105 miles per hour off the bat. The other one in San Diego was 100 miles per hour off the bat. Dodger Stadium is a little bit smaller in left center field than Petco Park. So I believe it's a bit unlucky. Or maybe the Padres learned from Game 1. They were able to better shift on Will Smith. Well, anyways, Tim Hill, look at that. That smile. That psychopath. He's coming in. Trea Turner, I'm not sure why he didn't advance on the sac fly, but here he and Freddie take advantage of Tim Hill's long stride and only looking once at second base. So either way, they advance, second and third, 1 out, Max Muncy. This is the guy you want up at the plate in this situation. The problem is Tim Hill is a tough lefty, and he gives, in this at-bat, all sinkers to Max Muncy, as there you see the one look back to second base. And honestly, this is just a tough pitch. That 92, 93 mile per hour sinker coming off of that angle looks more like 98, I bet. Especially out of that arm slot, out of that funky angle from that sidearm lefty. That's just an impossible pitch to hit for a left-handed batter. Max Muncy just couldn't do much with it. And it sucks because Muncy's been one of our best hitters over the last few years in these situations and over the last couple months. And you see Hill just, flipping up that rosin bag, and Dave Roberts isn't too happy. So Muncy can't put the ball in play, and then Justin Turner, he starts to show his age here, barely fouls off this fastball, and he grounds out weakly to end the inning. What sucks the most is that these are the hitters you want up there. Guys who don't chase out of the strike zone, who wait for their pitch, who barrel up that pitch when they get it. Unfortunately, this was their best chance, and they could only put up 1 run, but it wasn't their only chance. A number I'm sure that you don't need to be reminded of is them going 0 for 20 with runners in scoring position at one point during the series. They struck out 11 times with runners in scoring position in the series. That's a third of all those plate appearances with runners in scoring position. In the 3 losses, they went 2 for 26 with runners in scoring position. And everyone points to game 1 where they say the Dodgers just pounded their little brother San Diego Padres. But you know what? They didn't get a run after that 3rd inning in game 1. They didn't even get a single hit after that 3rd inning, only a walk from Freddie Freeman. And that was just a precursor of things to come. They felt that they were the best team in that series and that they could just skate on by with a big inning or 2. Obviously, that wasn't the case. But I also want to tip my hat here to the San Diego Padres because I feel their pitching isn't getting enough credit. So here's me tipping my hat. So that was the offensive breakdown. Stick around for the second part of the 7th inning breakdown. I'll cover the bottom of the 7th inning where the Dodgers, I don't even know how to put it in words. All I know is they made Clayton Kershaw cry.